there's no reason to be perfect right now. Like, we're all like, just try it out, because every person from the, like, celebs are at home trying to figure it out. So all the people that you admire and that you think are so together, they are having to figure it out. So if they're trying to figure it out, you can figure it out too. Like, don't, like, take some of that pressure and that perfectionism off of yourself.
So the question is this: how do thought leaders, school dropouts, former and current students find out what's next after they do or don't cross that stage? If you want to know the secrets to starting the career or business of your dreams, getting paid whatever you desire, and discovering what you do the best with the least amount of effort, then this is the right podcast for you. I'm Shawn Anthony, and this is School's Over, Now What? The podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Shawn Anthony, and this is the very first time you've ever clicked that button. Let me tell you a little bit about this show and what it is all about. Each and every single week, we continue to bring you an inspiring person or a message that's truly going to help you. They're going to help answer the question everybody listening to this show right now has asked themselves, and that's: school's over, now what? They're going to bring you their insights, and every person we've had on this show have answered that question and going to help you go to the next level, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your company, or whether it's just you trying to create something epic and special. This is the show for you as you continue the journey. So I'm grateful for having you here, and I'm excited for this particular episode. And here's the thing: this show will be nothing without you guys telling your friends, sharing it on IG, and just pushing this message out further. And you know how I like to kick this thing off with the review of the week. And this week's review of the week comes from Tad Hay. And they wrote, "I love that I can simply press play and go. Love the content and consistency, straight to the point." Tad, I appreciate you. And right now, if you're listening to this, if you've been inspired by 100+ episodes of us showing up and providing nothing but value, scroll to the bottom of your screen right now. If you're listening to this on iTunes, click that 5-star rating and leave your review. This helped grow the show just tremendously. And again, guys, we'll be nothing without you. So we appreciate your support. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Are you thinking of starting a business? You're going to need a website. Or do you have a business but haven't updated your website in over 2 years? Then you need to hear this. Olive Branch Digital will help you create the website of your dreams. They are masters at turning your ideas to responsive websites that get picked up on Google and all the major search engines. Stop wasting time trying to learn the code and visit olivebranchdigital.com. Mention the podcast and get 10% off your website project. This episode is brought to you by www.patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat. For as low as $5, you can help us impact more people, tour schools, and reach communities. You will also get exclusive Patreon-only content. That's bonus episodes, early access, and be able to go behind the scenes with me and some of our guests. Visit www.patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat and become a patron today. All right, let's get into the reason you clicked that button. Our guest today is none other than Africa Miranda, TV host, author, beautypreneur, digital media personality, and the founder of Beauty by Africa Miranda is on the show today. And I hope you guys are excited because she's going to dive into so many topics about what's going on in the world today, how she's been able to navigate not only through COVID, but also be able to flourish with different systems in place and looking at new opportunities. We also dive a little bit back into her upcoming, how she went from politics to the music industry and more. Grab your pencil, grab your paper, sit back and enjoy. This is going to be one of your favorite episodes, episode 109 with Africa Miranda. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on a podcast with the one and only Africa Miranda. She does it all from TV hosting, personality, beautypreneur, digital media, you name it. This is her. How's it going? How's life?
Life is honestly, and I'm like, I guess in the words of Future, life is good. Life is good. Never thought I would be quoting Future when I describe my life, but in this day on this day, life is good.
You know what's crazy when Future and them dropped that whole song, a whole lot changed in the whole demographics of the world, right? Like everything just changed. And we'll get into that. But I want to jump back. I think it's always important to provide the audience with people's backstory, right? Their upbringing, because that's where we find the commonalities and we see something in us. So tell the people, a little bit about, you growing up as a kid.
Got you. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. My father is Cape Verdean. So if you know anything about Cape Verdeans, they are all in Massachusetts or like in New England. My parents separated when I was very young, and my mom and I moved to Alabama, back to Alabama where she was from. So I grew like Alabama is what I claim is home. Like I still have family in Boston. I love Boston, but Alabama from all through school. I graduated from college in Alabama. I went to Alabama State University, HBCU grad. Yeah. So I definitely, like my roots are Southern. Like, I lived in New York and I've lived in cities and for a lot of my life and my adulthood, but I definitely heavily identify with the South and home. I was in musical theater and played violin and I was very much like into the arts when I was younger. But it wasn't necessarily that I thought I was going to end up being a performer. I think secretly I wanted to, but, life kind of has other plans. And then after college, I worked for the governor of Alabama. I was like the youngest political appointee in his cabinet. I did that for about a year and a half. And then escaped to New York. I got a chance to be in a girl group and I took it because I was still singing like quietly. Yeah. And I had a chance like through like, everybody has that story. Like my cousin went to college in New York and was friends with a producer and he knew me, this whole thing. And I got put in this girl group. They were putting together like it's like a new version of like TLC. So they had like a girl from down south who was me, a girl from LA and a girl from New York. And we were supposed to be this like next thing. Cut to, I leave Alabama like a week later. I'm in the studio, like referencing songs for Jay-Z for a hook. Like it was a very surreal time in my life. And then, got to New York and like started living the New York like artist life, but the starving artist life, shall I say. And life just kind of grew and evolved to like where I am today. I'm like, that's a very short version of a very long story, but that's like the groundwork, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, that's the quickest good synopsis I ever had on the show. You got through that in like 2 minutes.
So much like it would be like I could tell like my first month in New York could take up this whole podcast. So like we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, you touched on something I think is important right now. I think HBCUs are definitely getting the spotlight right now. People are talking about giving back to them and being involved with them. You went to a HBCU. What was that experience like for you, and how did that help you to do some of the things that you went on to do?
Definitely. I mean, I call my time at Alabama State University the golden time of my life. Like, I grew up, like growing up, Montgomery is predominantly Black, but I was in like these academic programs. So I would be like maybe at a Black school, but in an all white program. So I was not in like, it wasn't something where like I grew up and, felt so immersed necessarily like in the culture, so to speak, and my education. So when it was time for college, I was like, I am going to a Black college. I want to be Whitley Gilbert. Like, I want different world. Like, I want this whole thing. And that honestly is what Alabama State gave me. Like the type of nurturing, the type of foundation that you're given, I think, as a Black person, as a Black woman, like I pledged Delta, like, all of those things, I use those skills and, the way that I learned to like navigate, life, like during those 4 years, I use it every day. Like I joke and tell people like I was Miss Alabama State University. I was like, that was an influencer before, I was a brand ambassador before it was a thing. It was called being campus queen. You learn about what it means to represent an entity, to speak for them, to speak for the students, to be that representation. And a lot of those skills and grooming that I received, like my mentor in college marched with Dr. King when she was like 5 years old, and there's like a story and a book about her. So these were the people like that laid hands on me that, that groomed me to be the woman that I am. And I would not have gotten it anywhere else. And my friends that have gone to other HBCUs can tell you similar stories. And, I'm not part of that whole like HBCU versus PWI thing. Like, you go to college, you do whatever, but I would be lying if I didn't think that we got like a little, like you got a little extra sauce. Like you just did. If you went to HBCU, like, I'm sorry, like it's because people, it's the same. No, it's not. No, it's not. Like we got a little extra sauce, just
Facts.
A little bit.
Facts. And I graduated with Winston-Salem State University, and by far you're right, because we went from being the minority to the majority And it's just crazy to see, you know, like you said, the culture, the things highlighted on the highest level. And people are listening to this right now. You think about college. The cool thing is that you're bringing in so many different people from different states and cities. Like,
and internationally, like the blackness that you experience, you know, across the diaspora. But, you know, you're getting blackness, like, because, you know, when growing up, your version of blackness is just informed by like your family, your neighborhood, your immediate community. But you start to recognize again what it means to be black in Chicago, to be black in Cali. We had a huge, like, a lot of students from Virgin Islands, you know, so like we had a lot of African students. So it's just, you started to realize, and it broadens your understanding of what it means to be black globally.
Facts. I would agree with that, you know, anymore. And, you know, what's crazy, I think, for you and listening to your story is that you go from, you know, Miss Alabama State University to working in politics, you know, working in politics. And that's like two like different genres right there. Like, how were you able to do that switch up?
Well, I mean, you did have to campaign. You do have to campaign, you know. Colleges, you got to campaign. But one thing is that Montgomery is the capital of Alabama. So growing up, a lot of my friends, like my high school boyfriend's father was a judge, and like, you know, different friends' parents were on city council. So you were always like helping your friends' family, like, you know, campaign. And it was a way for college students to, I think a lot of us were like, that was like a little extra side job. Like you would work on campaigns and get paid. And, you know, because the city and the campus was small enough, you could literally, you know these different politicians and people by name. So I just think, and also too, I think going to an HBCU, you have that legacy of political involvement. Mm-hmm. So you understand the power of like the young vote and of the young voice on change. So it's not as, I think, like on paper, it seems like it would be separate, but it really was not as separate, because even for me, like as I was meeting different representatives that would come to the campus. So I was having a chance to meet congressmen and senators and, you know, have those experiences and make those connections.
I think you just touched on something there too. It's really about making those experiences and those connections while you still are involved, which exactly. I think definitely propel you to go from, you know, that to politics. And then you take a leap to New York. I think for a lot of people, right? A lot of people, they struggle taking those leaps. Those mm-hmm. leaps of faith. Like, what would be your advice on, you know, that woman or that person that's listening right now that's have the opportunity, but they're scared to take that leap like Africa did and went to New York and chased her dreams?
You know, I tell people, like, looking at life, and this is something that I really break down in my book, Step Up, Step Out and Shine. It really is about that, like how life can seem like goals or things like that are too big. And when you do look at them as, you know, in the huge scope, it is very large. But when you look at it as small decisions, like if I just literally step up, which means let me just make this decision to say, okay, this is what I want to do. And what small thing can I do to get towards it? That's the first piece. Then once you've stepped up, it's not very hard to then step out and say, okay, I can push myself a little bit further. And once you start the stepping up and the stepping out and you get that in your bones, shining happens because you're doing it. You're doing the work. And as we all know in life, if you do continuous work, I'm not saying you're going to be Beyonce or you're going to be Barack Obama, but you will get some level of success from your action. So I always encourage people, because that's really the same approach I've always taken in my life. You've got to just keep moving and like pushing yourself little by little. And it's not about looking at what you're going to do in 6 months. It's like, what do I get through today? If I get through today, okay, cool. Now we can get through tomorrow. Now we can get through the day after that. And you look up and you're like, okay, wow, I have actually accomplished a lot of things. But if you just look at things too broad, I find that we get discouraged because it's really hard. And when you don't accomplish it, then you feel discouraged. And it's like this cycle of failure. And you almost like kind of take yourself out the game before you really gave yourself a chance to really compete.
Hey guys. So let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show. Yeah, and that's so true. I think even with work, right? People who are like, they get discouraged or what may have you, sometimes you just got to change your attitude, right? Like, and that changes everything, right?
And it's, I mean, and I get like, people to just be positive. Like, I'm not like, look, we all have like our days, but just like athletes train and, you look at people that are successful, it's about training yourself to do things when you don't feel like it, when you don't feel motivated, when the sun is not shining, when everything is not, the stars are not all aligned. Like true, I think personal fulfillment and success happens when you push yourself beyond what is comfortable, what you think is possible, and honestly, what you don't feel like doing. Because there are days I don't feel like doing anything. And I give into that some days, but I also know that if I give into that feeling every day, I'm not going to have anything.
Yeah. And just in a snap, you can lose it all, right? If you just got lazy and fell back on everything. What do you think the music industry taught you? Like you took this leap. What do you think that taught you?
Yeah, the music industry taught me that you are not as special as you think. It's just, it's just, you can be talented, you can have all of these things, and it's just, sometimes it just does not happen. And it doesn't mean that you're not good or that you're not whatever. It's just, it taught me a great lesson of, I can do all the things that I think that are right. And that does not mean that I'm going to necessarily get what I want. I will always relish like the time that I spent in the business, because it definitely thickened my skin to a place where like, I don't know that there's, like producers talk to you crazy, labels talk to you, like people talk to you crazy in the music business. And I'm not going to say that that's super healthy, but there's not much that someone can probably say to shake me right now. Because I've heard, all the good things and I've heard all the bad things. So I think it really taught me like what they say, like, don't take compliments too much to heart and don't take critique too much to your head. Whatever that statement is, a lot of that I think I gained in the music business.
I think if anything, it sounds like it toughens you up to withstand any battle.
100%. Like I'm much more fearless now in a way that I was absolutely not the first time I moved here from Alabama. Like 100%.
That's crazy. So like, just talk city life for me right now. I think like you go from, Alabama to, New York, right? That you go from the South to like literally popping, right? Like, what is that adjustment like for your life and for, your everyday routine? Like, what's Africa's routine now?
Well, my routine, it's funny. Like I've recently, like thanks to Corona, Corona got me up out of New York. So I've actually moved back to Atlanta. So I'm in Atlanta now. And I had lived in Atlanta before in between New York. But that first move was definitely, it wasn't so much culture shock in that I had visited New York a lot, like with family, and we would come, all the time. But it's totally different, once you live there. And New York is very much, I think, a city that either you can make it work or you can't. And it's not for everyone. And I'm very thankful that even though there are times where I feel like the city was breaking me down, I'm a survivor of New York. Like I always have my 646 number. And I'm like, it has given me, again, you get that toughness. You get that, like, it's the reason I can travel all over the world and be fine. It's like, I lived in New York. Like I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Harlem. Like I can go anywhere, I can go anywhere. So, but it was definitely this feeling of, like, New York is very much like, you got to go get it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, you got to figure out where you're going, and that energy is everywhere on the train, on the street, and people that you meet. And so for me, I think for people, it's either overwhelming or it's inspiring. And for me, it was inspiring. Like it put no, I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in LA, and I love Atlanta. I love LA, but there's no place that pushes you, I think, or drives you to succeed or excel like New York does. Not at all.
I like that. And I always like the vibes of New York. Like, let's talk a little bit. Let's transition here. I think COVID-19 has changed how people are operating. How has it impacted you?
It has changed almost everything. It changed my work. I would say 80% of like work that I had on tap for the year or projects that were being like discussed or about to close have either been moved to next year or just on hold indefinitely. So financially, like that's like, as creatives, we make plans.
Yeah.
And, you make plans and you're like, oh, I can change, so you got to change your plans. Thankfully, there's some deals that were already in the pipeline that have not changed. And I thank God for that every day. I also, there were some things that I was already like creating digitally of my own that still have been going, which I would challenge all creatives, if you're listening, if there was anything that I would tell anybody, like this was a wake up call that we all need to have things of our own. Like whether it's some sort of digital, our life is not sustainable depending on someone else giving us opportunities to create or platforms to create, because this has just shown us that if it goes away or, or our accessibility changes, then our ability to make money changes. And that's not great. So it's been, some money has gone, but then there's also money that I was creating that is still coming in. So I'm very thankful. From just an interpersonal standpoint, it's been challenging because, we thrive on connecting and being around people. And it's hard. Like I was on a Zoom with like 4 of my girlfriends. One is literally going to have a baby any day now. And we're all just like, I guess we'll see the baby at the first birthday party. It's just, yeah. You realize so much of your life, has changed. I had to leave New York in March. I had a family emergency. Like my grandmother got sick. So I had to fly to Alabama, quarantine. It's life as we know it has changed. And it's like now I look at like my plans for my business and even just for myself. And you're figuring out a new plan because the old plan, I can't use the old plan. So like, what am I planning for now? Like, what does it look like? And it's been challenging, like super challenging.
Yeah. I think, like you said, the old plan is a wrap, right? I guess it's over for that.
Plan, old approach, because, you'll start planning stuff and then you realize like, oh, I'm still planning as if like I can do it. I was like, oh, I can't do that. Okay. And then you get like start again. And it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. You know, what's crazy? Like you touched on something there that's important for all the entrepreneurs that's listening right now is the power of digital, the power of social. So like there are advantages. Like, and one of those advantages I would say primarily is think about people who had to pay that overhead cost on that conference who are now just paying a platform fee. They get a percentage, but it's not that crazy of a percentage compared to how much your overhead would be for that conference. And now they're seeing it on digital, right? And I think about, like you said, think about that product that somebody right now is listening to this right now that had a physical product. They thought they had to put in people's hands who have now found creative ways to get it in front of them. So there are some advantages to this right now. So guys, you're listening, take some of this advice that Africa is giving because I think it's important that we start applying it. Like right now, what would be your advice? I'm just curious to know, like, what would be your advice to somebody that is stuck? Like there's so many people that are stuck. They still got that old mindset. Right? We talk about you got to change your plan. Somebody needs to figure out a way to kind of get out there and change their plan. What's your advice to get them out of that rut?
The first is it's okay to mourn what we've lost. And I think so many is this like mentality of like, let's just go get it. But sometimes it's just like, we've lost a lot. And this is even something like when I was talking with my therapist, because it was just like, we're trying to like figure it out. And she's like, you need to take a second and just acknowledge it. Like what's happening in the world between the pandemic, between like the riots, like it's just, and not even riots. I don't even want to use that word. That shows you how like messaging gets in your head, the protesting. We're in the midst of like a lot of tragic things, like being Black. We're watching people, our people get killed. We're watching, we are the ones disproportionately dying from this disease that nobody understands. Like the president is crazy. So like it's okay to take a moment and just acknowledge that like everything is crazy. It's okay to mourn what we've lost, but also acknowledge that like we really don't have control anyway. So stop trying to fight for control. Like this is out of our control. And I think once you kind of relinquish some of that energy, it lets you kind of get to a place to say, all right, now what do I want? Because what I will say is that now is a beautiful time to just try things. Like things that maybe it didn't seem like the right fit at another time, or maybe you didn't have the time for it. Like I just been telling everybody, like, I don't know if we can curse on here, but like, fuck it. Like just try, just try it. Like, because if it don't work out, like shit ain't working out for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, what do you have to lose at this point? So I would say a lot of times being stuck I know when I start to feel stuck is because I'm kind of wrapped up in perfectionism, and that's what's making me stuck. There's no reason to be perfect right now. Like we're all like, just try it out, because every person from like celebs are at home trying to figure it out. So all the people that you admire and that you think are so together, they are having to figure it out. So if they're trying to figure it out, you can figure it out too. Like, don't take some of that pressure and that perfectionism off of yourself.
Yo, that was tough. That was hard. Like this was the IG live. They were hitting like the heart emojis and the flames. All that would have came through on that one. Like that was tough. But that's true. Let's unpack that. And I think it's important to unpack that. Yo, I think so many people are afraid to just try it. Like right now, like people are saying, "Oh, I gotta have the best mic or whatever." Dude, your phone is way better right now. Go raw. It's behind the scenes. Just document, right?
It's the message, it's the information. We forget that like the message is the star, the info is the star, like what we're creating is the star. All that other stuff is like extra. Like, would I love to be like back on my set where I have my camera and my crew? Of course. But if the meat of it is the conversation, I can have the conversation anywhere. with anyone, any way. If the only way that you can be received well is if everything is perfect and shiny, then your message is lacking and what you're creating is lacking. Because that's just the extra stuff. Like that should not be what's making it. That's what makes us feel comfortable, but it shouldn't be what's making it.
You know what's crazy about that too, I think, is if you keep waiting for that perfectionism, like you're going to miss out. You're going to take too long putting the things together. It's going to be somebody going just straight raw out there crushing it.
Like, I remember I was so afraid to do like a YouTube video. And then I saw like somebody's video, they had like 1 million views and it was like dirty towels in the background. I was like, girl, what am I worried about? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like they got a dirty towels in the background. Why are you worried about whether or not, makeup's on point? Like, yeah, it's not even needed. So guys, you got to figure it out. That might be the title of this episode too. Like, you just gotta figure it out. You gotta find some way. So you touched on something too that I think is important. I feel like right now there's so much attention on Black people, and I feel like, and let's be honest, with so much attention on Black people, it's time we utilize that buying power we got, right? And I want you to help people here because I know you're good at, securing, brands and sponsors and people, running with your message. What would be, Africa's advice on, utilizing this time right now to get that buy-in if you're an entrepreneur and who's interested in these companies who claim that they're so investing into Black people?
Well, and the first is, I'm so glad the emphasis on that claim that they're so interested in investing in Black people. I mean, now it's time to make people, what do they say? Put your money where your mouth is and really like see how true people are with what they say. But, something that I talk and that I teach with like creatives, like I have a media training course and I help, creatives with branding and entrepreneurs. And a lot of that is getting people to understand you have to be clear on what it is that you offer, because what people are paying for is like clarity and intention and the message. So if you don't really know, like it's great to say like, oh, we want money, we want people to pay us, but what do you want them to pay you for? Like I've made it very clear and very easy for people to pay me because they know exactly what they are getting when they pay me. Like there's no like, well, I don't know what she does. It's Black woman. My audience is Black women. It's all about inspiration, beauty, travel, and living our best life and having, everything is about like, again, nurturing our insides to live beautifully inside and out. It's very clear. I make sure that it's clear across everything that I do. So you're not coming to me like I like food, but I'm not a chef. Like there's no food. Like I'm not showing you how to make healthy meals. I might do a show where I bring a chef on and I eat the food so you can learn it. But like, again, I'm just clear on what it is that I do. And where a lot of people find the disconnect with brands and like, I think they don't really understand how to leverage the attention or, all the energy that's happening right now is because they don't have their own clarity. So I would say if you are someone that wants to work with brands or you want to even leverage your business. Like I also have a beauty company and thankfully I've been getting a lot of attention because it's a Black owned business. But again, my beauty company, my skincare, it's very clear though what the intention of my brand is, what the brand aesthetic is, what the products do. You have to like money and like the higher price points, the higher the price point, that's how clear you have to be. I have a year-long deal that I'm doing with a brand right now that is the only reason that I'm not super stressed out about like all this other stuff falling apart. But that's because it's a brand that I've worked with over the years. And so when it was time to cut a year-long check and establish that relationship, they came to me for it because I had shown 110% what it is that I do and that I could deliver. So it's not like being Black is not enough in this day. Like it's great and that's going to get the conversation started, but to close a deal, you have to show your value. So I would challenge everyone, take a critical look at yourself. And it's not like if you're only doing like you're posting a little bit here, but maybe your message isn't that clear. Like ask 5 people in your circle, if you had to ask 5 people what it is that you do or what is your brand or your platform about. And if they all have different answers, then you have a problem. And that means that a brand can't look at you and say, I don't know. Like if this person, maybe could they fit here? Maybe do they fit there? Like, I think sometimes we want to be masters of everything and we can't do that. And that's why we ain't making no money. Like, and I'm going to tell like the people that are making money with brands, I don't like whoever they are there. It's because they're clear on what it is they do. They're not trying to do 50 things. They might be very, very, very good at 5 and those 5s are killing it.
Yo, that was free game. And it's because you got to be clear in your message, right? Because if you're unclear in your message, what are they paying for? Like you said, like, we doing beauty.
It's like he got a podcast, but what's like every episode is And like sometimes the episode drops on Tuesday, but then the other times it drops this time, and maybe it's once a month, maybe it's every couple of months. Like, how is a sponsor going to say this is a podcast I should align myself with if there's no consistency in the messaging, or like you can't build an audience? So why would I pay to connect with this audience that's not even there? You know, like, and I don't think people, they're just looking at I want somebody to pay me. And yes, we all want that, but it's still like, you don't want to pay to go get your car fixed and they only fixed like one thing and they didn't fix the whole thing. Like, so we can't, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And also too, like if you're in an industry like Africa, you know, is in, or if you're, you know, you're in an industry of strong, powerful women and motivating them, thought comes to my mind. And we had Marty, McDonald, who's the CEO of Boss Woman Media on the show before. And she talked about the buying power that Black women have. Right.
Funny.
And the percentages and knowing metrics like that and inserting it into your pitch. Oh, it changes the game. It
is like brands are coming. Like the reason like they are coming because it's like, yes, Black people, but Black women.
Yep.
So it's like, you have to know that, and you have to nurture, and also, but even bigger than that, there's a responsibility then that you then have to your audience. And it's, for me, when I look at brands, I'm not just saying, okay, let me just get this check. It's like, how does this align with my audience? How does this brand's messaging? I've looked at all the brands that I've been working with to see what they've been talking about these last couple of months.
Yep.
You know, have they said anything? And if they said it, what are the intentions behind it? Have they reached out to me? You know, there's a lot of things like that go along with that, especially now moving forward as well.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. And I want to help people that's listening to this right now, because we got a lot of diverse people listening to this right now. Our white brothers and sisters who's listening right now who are struggling with just saying anything.
Come on, just do the work. It's okay. It's okay.
Like, is there any words of wisdom Africa could give to somebody who's been silent during all these times? Because I don't think it's the time to be quiet. So I want to know what's your advice on that.
The thing about it is that, like, but I also am very quick to say that, like, I'm not here to like instruct white people on how to like work through systemic oppression and racism and privilege and all of that. But I would say, though, is that not knowing what to say in 2020 is not an excuse. We got the Googles, we got, all you like, there's enough ways to look and ways to figure out how to be active. And that's honestly for anybody. That's for Black, white, whatever race you are, because everybody is not going to protest in the street. Everyone is not going to do whatever. Like one thing I loved is that my acting coach reached out to me, and she was like, she wanted to do something for creative. So she's like, people can't go to acting classes, can't do these things. She's like, but I'm going to do a free acting class. And if, so people can just express their creativity, kind of get some of that energy out. But in order to attend, everyone has to donate to, a charity of their choice, but show proof that they donated. And she was just asking if I thought that was appropriate. I was like, no, that's great. It's like,
that's great.
Find your way to make a difference. Because the thing about change, and this kind of to bring it back to the very beginning where we talked about small steps, I'm not like, if you want to go topple a Confederate statue, I think that's fantastic. But if you also just want to have a conversation with your uncle who is like super racist and says inappropriate shit at Thanksgiving, that's a start as well. Like, yep. So it's like, again, don't think about how to do the biggest. What's a small way that you can start impacting your circle and making those ripple effects every day? Do you have children? Have you had a real conversation with your white children the same way that we got to talk to our Black children? You know what I mean? Like, not just like, oh, I love all people. No, this is why, like having real conversations. So it's like, that is my challenge, is like, just you can do anything like this. It's so easy to do small things, but we try to make it so much harder because it's like, we have to do these big grand things. Forget social media. I don't need you to post a Black square every day. Talk to the person sitting next to you.
Yes.
If you're in a group and they're making a joke and it's something, or they're talking crazy, say something. Like, that's how you start to make real change. We need big change. We need small change. We need medium change. Like, we need every person to act in all those different capacities to start moving the needle of what needs to happen in this country.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it really comes down to, like, Black people, we aren't in a position where we want to hear you feeling sorry for us. We want you to educate that person next to you, that is going to educate the next person, and that's how we shift. So I appreciate that answer. That answer was real. So I want to ask you the question that we've asked every single person that's ever been on this podcast, has ever hopped on the show. And that is, if you were that person who just graduated, you just crossed that stage, or you let's say you dropped out of school and school just wasn't for you, and you were asking yourself the question of the show, school's over, now what? What advice would Africa Miranda give?
School. And it's so funny because that literally was me. Like when I graduated, I had said all four, I was like, I'm going to law school. I'm going to law school. That senior year rolled around. I was like, I ain't going to law school. Like, why have I been telling people I'm going to law school? And I didn't have like a job lined up when I graduated. I was offered a position at the university as a recruiter. So I did that for the summer after graduation. And then I got offered the appointee position with the governor's office. So I kind of fell into some opportunities. And I even talk about this in my book. A lot of my life at that point was just like people helping me out and, falling into things. What I would challenge someone, and this was a lesson that I wish I had learned, I had learned then, was that I've like, you got to do something. Again, you got to do something. Like the now what is, guess what? Like get moving, like start figuring out, what you want and taking those steps to make it happen. Like don't be reactive, because I think there is this feeling of, oh my God, it's like the whole world, I got to get a job. I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to kind of just sit here. You have to be an active participant in your life. Like you have to, like, you've got to, like, there is no, like, I don't, like, your family can't make it happen for you. Your friends, like, it does not matter. You have to, like, sit there with yourself. I don't care if you got to write in your journal, write in your notes app, whatever, but you have to start being an active participant in your life. So the now what is get started. The now what is do some work. The now what is, I don't care if you got to read, you got to go do some yoga, you got to sit in the park, but like the now what is start laying the foundation of your life, because like life has begun, like, and life is moving whether you are on the train or not. So what you don't want is have to try to catch it, hoping it comes around again. Because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. And I think we do young people a disservice when we say like, oh my God, you have so much time. To some degree, you do have time. So I don't want to, it's not a pressure of like, you've got to have it all figured out. But what I would challenge someone is that like, we can start applying a little bit pressure like a little earlier. And that's like a time to like, that is the time to go hard. Like, that's the time to like experiment. That's the time to like, try some wild jobs or something kind of crazy that maybe your family doesn't understand or whatever. Like now's the time to take the risk. So that would also be my now what is like, take some risks. It's a lot harder to take risks when you have more responsibility, when you maybe have a family or when you're older. Like you can take all of those risks during that time. And I was not as much of a risk taker. I take more risks now than I did then. I'm like, some of these risks I should have taken then. But, it is what it is. But I would challenge, like, during that time, like those few years after college, like, take risks. Like, really push yourself and, like, stretch to figure out, like, who you are. And, you can step away from the circle. So, like, it's okay.
That's real. Take risks, apply pressure, and get things happening. You've been phenomenal. Having you on the show.
Thank you.
I know people right now, they want to know more about you. Like, tell them, where they can find you, your social media platforms.
My life is at africamiranda.com. My beauty company is beautybyafricamiranda.com. I'm on Instagram at Africa Miranda. That's my real first and last name. I'm also on Twitter. Twitter's the easiest way to like say hey and like convo. I'm like, my DMs on Instagram are like, there's a lot going on. I do check them, but I would always say if you want to reach out, like Twitter is the easiest place to like say hello and like, connect. My email is on all of my stuff. So you can always reach me by email as well, for work, not for anything personal, please. But I'm always happy to connect. And I'm just like, I love Black people and Black things. And I mean, I love everybody, but I'm all about this Black life and living this best Black life. So,
hey, that's the way to go. Guys, we appreciate you so much. And for those of you listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at ShawnRAnthony_, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.